Well, the Meyiwa murder trial is now facing delays due to the poor health of a state witness. Pinky Vythilingam is the forensic liaison supervisor at the cell phone network Vodacom. She's been testifying about a SIM swap the day that after Meyiwa was killed. We're joined now by Linda Mnisi. Linda, he, of course, has been our reporter covering this well for months, years even. Linda, good afternoon to you. Firstly, why the postponement? What's happened?
All right, so you'll remember that Pinky Vythilingam yesterday was unwell and the court had to take an early adjournment to allow her time to recover. So we come back today and we're told that she is still not well and is taking medication, and therefore a request for a postponement was then made. The state saying that the defense lawyers or the defense was in agreement with this arrangement. Lawyers like Sipho Ramusipili as well as Thulani Mngomezulu were not in court today. The other lawyers standing in for them confirming that in fact that discussion was held with them and they don't have a problem with postponing for her. She is set to return tomorrow on the stand. The state says by all indications it looks like she will be well and be able to continue with her testimony. You also remember that during her testimony for the past 2 days she's been struggling with her voice. You know, at times you could not hear her clearly because it sounded like her voice is strained. So we're told it's due to a cough that she's been struggling with, and therefore she's been given the rest of the day today to take medication and hopefully come back stronger tomorrow.
The evidence around SIM cards, why does it matter? What's it telling us so far?
All right, so you'll remember that last year in July, we had Colonel Lambertus Steyn, who is a data analyst, and what he told the court as he was going through all the analysis that he did on cell phone records, he informed the court that in fact a SIM swap had been conducted on Senzo Meyiwa's phone the day after he was murdered. What this lady from the service provider, Pinky Vythilingam, has told the court now is essentially what the data analyst, Lambertus Steyn, told the court last year. She's confirmed that a SIM swap was conducted. It was conducted at a particular location, and it was conducted on the day after Senzo Meyiwa was killed, just around 9 o'clock in the morning.
I just want to understand this. So this is Senzo Meyiwa's phone?
Yeah.
So he's killed, and the next day, 9 in the morning, someone is taking his phone and changing the SIM card in that phone?
Essentially what the state says is that just after he had passed away, when police were on scene, the phones were confiscated, including Senzo Meyiwa's phone. But what they're now telling the court is that essentially what then happened thereafter is a SIM swap on his SIM card. So essentially this person would have gone and gotten a new SIM card using Senzo's number, and a couple of calls were made thereafter. She says about 63 calls were placed successfully. And you also remember the evidence of Senzo Meyiwa's friend, Mthokozisi Twala. He in fact was asked about who had Senzo Meyiwa's ID, and that's at the back of Colonel Steyn saying that the person who would have done the SIM swap would have been close to Senzo, would have had Senzo's ID. And what Mthokozisi Twala told the court was that it was Kelly Khumalo who had Senzo Meyiwa's ID. He even said that at some point the family came with the police to come and get the ID as funeral preparations were underway. He was then asked by the defense that there's evidence in court that a SIM swap was conducted the following day, and that his evidence is that Kelly Khumalo had the ID. Does he know? And he says, well, he's surprised that there's evidence that a SIM swap was conducted the very next day, but what he can confirm is that Kelly Khumalo had the ID. I know earlier on I actually made a mistake and I said she had the SIM card, but in fact he confirmed that she had the ID. Pinky Vythilingam from Vodacom says on the records that they have, it does not show who could have conducted who could have made a request for the SIM swap. All it shows is the name of the agent and the place where the SIM swap was conducted. But by all indications, it looks like it was successful. And one of the requirements for a SIM swap is an ID, a proof of account, a different account, and if you're doing it via telephone, you'd need to answer a couple of questions, something like security questions essentially. But by all indications, it looks like this was a successful SIM swap, and she went on to say there are about 63 successful calls that were made. That SIM card was not placed in Senzo Meyiwa's phone. He was using an iPhone 5S. It was placed, the new SIM card that is, it was placed in a Nokia. Colonel Lambertus Steyn last year said that that SIM card then made contact, after a new SIM card had been generated, made contact with Kelly Khumalo 8 times. Pinky Vythilingam has not said, talked about this communication that Lambertus Steyn spoke about earlier, but what she said was that there was a SIM swap that was conducted. We don't know who conducted the SIM swap, but that person would have needed to produce an ID. I remember the judge asking her if it was imperative that the person who conducts or makes a request for a SIM swap provides an ID, and what she says was that it is imperative. You can't just give an ID number. You would also need to give a copy of that particular ID.
There's so much going on here. I mean, you would think in the moments after an incident like this, people would not leave the house, and we don't yet know who actually was doing all of this. I mean, this is what seems to be confusing.
Yeah, because obviously, it has not been stated or confirmed by Pinky Vythilingam. But essentially, she's also spoken yesterday, if you remember, in fact, on Monday, she's spoken about the phone pinging in different areas. It pinged at the clinics around in the evenings as well, and a number of other places that the phone had pinged in on the day in question. But of course, there's also evidence that it was confiscated, it was collected with the other phones that would have been taken by police on the night that Senzo Meyiwa was killed.
Sure. Linda Mnisi, thank you very much indeed. It's amazing some of the things that are coming out of this particular story.